The Villa Capri, Hollywood, December 1952. The restaurant was full when Frank Sinatra walked in at 9:47 p.m. Every table occupied, low conversation, the smell of garlic and wine, red tablecloths, candles flickering in small glass holders. The Villa Capri was where people went when they didn't want to be seen but knew they would be anyway. Sinatra walked past the host's stand without stopping, straight to the back corner where a man sat alone at a table, reading a newspaper. The man was maybe 45, balding, wire-rimmed glasses, gray suit that had seen better days. His name was Lou Gelman. He worked at Columbia Pictures. Not an executive, not even close. He was a studio accountant, mid-level, the kind of guy who processed expense reports and reconciled budgets and went home at 5:30 every day to a wife and 2 kids in Burbank. He looked up when Sinatra's shadow fell across his table. His face went pale. "Mr. Sinatra, Lou." Sinatra pulled out the chair across from him and sat down without being invited, expecting someone. "No, I know." Lou folded his newspaper quickly, hands trembling slightly. "I was just having dinner, alone. My wife is visiting her mother in San Diego." Sinatra nodded, signaled to a waiter without looking. The waiter appeared within seconds. "Bourbon, neat, and bring Lou another of whatever he's drinking." "Scotch and soda," Lou said quietly. The waiter disappeared. Sinatra leaned back in his chair, studying Lou with an expression that wasn't quite friendly but wasn't hostile either, just evaluating. Lou felt his throat tight. He'd seen Frank Sinatra once before, 3 years ago, at a studio Christmas party. Sinatra had been at the center of everything then. Photographer, executive, beautiful women. Lou had watched from across the room, holding a paper cup of punch, feeling invisible. Now Sinatra sat across from him in an empty restaurant and Lou felt even more invisible, like he was being looked through rather than at. "You know why I'm here," Sinatra said. It wasn't a question. Lou swallowed. "I think so." "Then you know I need to talk to you about something." "Mr. Sinatra, I can't. Whatever you think I can do, I probably can't. You haven't heard what I'm asking yet." "I know, but I'm just an accountant. I don't have access to Lou." Sinatra's voice was quiet, but it cut through the rambling like a knife. "Listen before you panic." Lou went silent. The drinks arrived. Sinatra took his bourbon, sipped it, set it down. Lou's scotch sat untouched. "There's a picture at Columbia," Sinatra said. "From here to eternity, you know it." Lou nodded. "I'm aware of it. They're casting right now. I want the role of Maggie." Lou blinked. "The soldier, the Italian kid." "Yeah, but that's Mr. Sinatra. That's not a singing role. That's a dramatic part, and it's small. You're Frank Sinatra. You don't need to do small supporting roles." "I need this one." Lou looked confused. "Why?" Sinatra didn't answer immediately. He picked up his bourbon again, rolled the glass between his hands. When he spoke, his voice was quieter, different. "Because I'm broke, Lou. Because my career is in the toilet. Because I haven't had a hit record in 2 years and the studios won't return my agent's calls. Because my wife is leaving me and my kids barely recognize me when I come home. Because if I don't do something that reminds people I can act, not just sing, then I'm done. Finished. You understand?" Lou stared at him. Frank Sinatra, the voice. The man who'd sold out Madison Square Garden, who'd been on the cover of every magazine in America. That Frank Sinatra was sitting across from him saying he was broke. I didn't know things were that bad. Now you do. And you know what the worst part is? It's not the money. It's not even the career. It's walking into rooms and watching people's eyes slide past you like you're already a ghost. Like you're something that used to matter but doesn't anymore. I see it everywhere I go. At parties, at restaurants. Even at the studio when I try to get meeting. They're polite, but they don't see me. They see what I used to be. And that's worse than being invisible. That's being a reminder of failure. Lou didn't know what to say. He'd never thought about it that way. About what it meant to be famous and then not. To have people know your name but not care anymore. "But I still don't understand what you want from me. I'm an accountant. I don't have anything to do with casting." "No, but you have access to budgets, production schedule. You know what the studio is spending on that picture. You know who's being considered for role." Lou's face went even paler. "Mr. Sinatra, I can't give you confidential information. That's a violation of my employment. I could get fired. I could get blacklisted. I'm not asking for confidential information." "Then what are you asking for?" Sinatra leaned forward slightly. His voice dropped lower. "I'm asking you to tell me who I need to talk to, who's making the casting decisions, who has Harry Cohn's ear. That's it. Just point me in the right direction." Lou looked down at his drink. His hands were shaking. "Mr. Sinatra, even just telling you who to talk to, that could get me in trouble. It could, or it could save my career, and if it does, I'll remember it. Lou looked up. What does that mean? It means if you help me now when I didn't have to ask but I'm asking anyway, I'll owe you. And when Frank Sinatra owes you something, that's worth more than whatever risk you're taking by helping me. Lou was quiet for a long moment. Around them, the restaurant continued. Couples eating. Waiters moving between tables. Someone laughed at the bar. Finally, Lou said, "Why me? You know powerful people. Producers, directors. Why are you asking an accountant? Because powerful people want something in return. They help you, you owe them, they keep score. But you're not powerful. You don't want anything from me except maybe an autograph for your kids. So if you help me, it's because you chose to, not because you're playing an angle." Lou picked up his scotch, took a long drink, set it down. His hands had stopped shaking. "You know what's funny?" Lou said. "What?" "You think I'm not powerful. You think I'm just some accountant who doesn't matter. But you're here, you're sitting at my table, you're asking me for help, so maybe I'm more powerful than either of us thought." Sinatra smiled, actually smiled. "You're right. That's exactly what this is. I need you. And that makes you powerful. So what do you want, Lou? What do I have to give you to make this happen?" Lou thought about it. He thought about his mortgage, about his kids' college fund, about the car that needed new brakes, about all the practical reasons he should ask for money. But then he looked at Frank Sinatra, really looked at him, and saw something he recognized: desperation. The kind that comes from needing something so badly you'll ask a stranger for help. Lou had felt that way once, 7 years ago, when his daughter Sarah was sick and he didn't have money for the specialist. He'd asked his boss for an advance, had been told no, had gone to a bank, had been denied, had finally borrowed from his wife's brother, a man he didn't like who'd held it over him for years. He'd never forgotten what it felt like to need something and have nowhere to turn. "I don't want anything," Lou said finally. "Nothing, nothing. I'll help you because you asked. Because you're desperate enough to sit across from an accountant at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday and tell him you're broke. That takes guts, or stupidity. I'm not sure which, but either way I respect it." Sinatra stared at him. "You're serious?" "Yeah, why? Because someday I might need something, and when I do I hope someone helps me for the same reason." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Lou said, "Buddy Adler. He's the producer on Eternity. He reports directly to Cohn. If anyone can get you an audition, it's him. How do I reach him? He's in New York this week. Meetings with the East Coast office, but he's back Monday. He has lunch at Musso and Frank every Monday at 1 p.m. Sits at the same table, back corner, always alone." Sinatra nodded slowly. "Musso and Frank, Monday, 1 p.m. Yes. Anyone else I should know about?" Lou hesitated. "Fred Zinnemann, he's directing. He has final say on casting, but he's hard to reach. Doesn't take meetings unless they're scheduled through his agent, and his agent is, I know his agent." "Then you know he's protective. He won't let just anyone get to Zinnemann." "I'll figure it out." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Lou said, "Mr. Sinatra, can I ask you something?" "Yeah. Do you really think you can get this role? I mean, with all respect, you're a singer. You haven't acted in years. And there are younger actors who are hungry, who have been grinding for this kind of opportunity. What makes you think you can beat them?" Sinatra looked at him for a long time. "Because I am hungry, Lou. Hungrier than any 25-year-old who's trying to break in. Because I've been at the top and I've fallen all the way down and I know what I'm fighting for. I'm not fighting for fame. I'm not fighting for money. I'm fighting to prove that I'm not done, that I can still do this. And that hunger, that desperation, that's what Maggio is. That's who he is. A guy who's small and scared and knows the world is gonna crush him, but he's not gonna make it easy. I don't have to act that. I live it." Lou nodded slowly. "I hope you get it. Me too." Sinatra stood, pulled out his wallet, dropped 2 20s on the table. "That's for both meals, and Lou, yes. Your kids, what are their names?" "Sarah and Michael." "How old?" 8 and 6. Sinatra reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a pen, grabbed Lou's newspaper, flipped it over, and wrote on the blank space at the bottom, "To Sarah and Michael, stay curious, stay kind. Your dad is a good man, Frank Sinatra." He pushed the newspaper across the table. "Give them that." Lou stared at the autograph. His throat felt tight. "Mr. Sinatra, you didn't have to." "I know, but I wanted to because you helped me when you didn't have to. That's worth something." Sinatra walked toward the door, stopped, turned back. "Lou, one more thing. Yeah. When I get this role, not if, when, I'm gonna remember this conversation. I'm gonna remember that you could have asked me for money or favors or anything else and you didn't. You just helped, and that's rare. So when you need something someday, you call me. You understand? You don't ask anyone else, you call me." Lou nodded slowly. "Okay. I'm serious. You helped me when I had nothing. That means something. That means everything. Then he walked out into the Lowe's Angels night. Lou sat at the table for another 20 minutes. Didn't order more food, didn't finish his drink. Just sat there looking at the autograph, wondering if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life or done something that would matter in ways he couldn't yet understand. 3 days later, Frank Sinatra walked into Musso and Frank at 12:57 p.m. He spotted Buddy Adler at the back corner table, walked over, sat down without being invited. "Mr. Adler, I'm Frank Sinatra. I want to talk to you about From Here to Eternity." Adler looked up from his menu, surprised but not displeased. "I know who you are. Then you know I'm serious. I want to audition for Maggio. I'll do it for scale. I'll do a screen test. I'll do whatever it takes. Just give me a shot." Adler studied him. "Why do you want this role so badly?" "Because I need it." "That's not a reason. It's the only reason that matters." Adler set down his menu. "All right, come to the studio Wednesday, 10 a.m. Bring sides. I'll have Zinnemann watch." Sinatra stood, shook his hand. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You still have to earn it." "I will." 3 weeks later, Frank Sinatra screen-tested for the role of Private Angelo Maggio. Fred Zinnemann watched from behind the camera. When it was over, Zinnemann turned to Buddy Adler and said, "That's Maggio." Sinatra got the role. He shot the film in 8 weeks. When it came out in 1953, he won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. It saved his career. Years later, someone asked Sinatra how he got the role. "I fought for it," Sinatra said. "I lobbied, I begged. I did everything I could to convince them I was right for it." "But how did you know who to talk to? How did you get to Buddy Adler?" Sinatra smiled. "Someone helped me, someone who didn't have to, someone who took a risk because I asked." "Who? Doesn't matter. Why not?" "Because he didn't help me for credit, he helped me because I needed it, and I'll never forget that." The interviewer pressed. "But surely we can acknowledge." "We acknowledge it by not naming him," Sinatra interrupted. "By not dragging him into the story. He helped me quietly, I'll thank him quietly, that's how it works." In 1973, Lou Gelman retired from Columbia Pictures after 31 years. He received a gold watch and a small pension. His retirement party was attended by 17 people. He went home to Burbank, played with his grandchildren, lived quietly. In 1978, Lou Gelman received a letter in the mail. Inside was a check for $50,000. No note, just a check. The signature line read, "Frank Sinatra." Lou stared at it for 10 minutes. Then he called his wife into the room. "Look at this," he said. She looked. Her hand went to her mouth. "Lou, that's $50,000. "I know. Why would Frank Sinatra send you $50,000? Lou told her the story, the whole story, about the night at Villa Capri in 1952, about helping Sinatra get to Buddy Adler, about the autograph for the kids, about how Sinatra had said he'd remember. "That was 26 years ago," his wife said. "I know. And he remembered." "Yeah. Are you going to cash it?" Lou thought about it, really thought about it. $50,000 was a lot of money. It was more than he'd make in 2 years. It could pay off the mortgage, could fund his grandchildren's education, could give him and his wife the retirement they dreamed about. "But no," Lou said finally, "I'm not going to cash it." "Why not?" "Because that's not why he sent it." "Then why did he send it?" "Because he wanted me to know he remembered. That's the gift, not the money." The fact that 26 years later, Frank Sinatra, who's worth millions, who's famous, who could have forgotten me the moment he walked out of that restaurant, still remembered my name, still remembered that I helped him, that's worth more than $50,000. His wife didn't understand, not really, but she nodded. "So what are you going to do with it?" "Frame it," Lou said. "I'm going to frame it and hang it next to that autograph he gave me. And when people ask about it, I'll tell them the story. Not because I want credit, but because I want them to understand that sometimes the most important thing you can do is help someone who needs it. And sometimes the most important thing someone can do is remember that you did." Lou never cashed the check. He framed it, hung it in his den, and every time he looked at it, he didn't think about the money. He thought about the night in 1952 when Frank Sinatra sat across from him, desperate and broke, and asked for help. And he thought about how strange it was that helping someone at their lowest moment could mean more than anything you did at your highest. When his daughter asked why he didn't cash it, Lou said, "Because some things are worth more than money." "Like what?" "Like knowing that when I helped someone who needed it, he remembered. Not because he had to, because he wanted to." She didn't understand. But years later, when Lou died and she cleaned out his house and found the framed check and the autograph, and a small note tucked behind them that read, "For Sarah and Michael, your father is a good man," she started to understand that power isn't about how much money you have or how famous you are. It's about what you do when someone asks for help, and you don't have to give it. And it's about what you do 26 years later when you haven't forgotten. Frank Sinatra could have gotten the role without Lou Gelman. He probably would have. He was talented. He was desperate. He was willing to work for scale, but Lou helped him anyway. And Sinatra remembered, not publicly, not loudly, just quietly, with a check Lou never cashed and a memory that lasted 50 years. The question is this. When you're Frank Sinatra and you're broke and desperate and you need a favor, and you sit down across from a mid-level accountant who has nothing to gain and everything to lose by helping you, and you ask anyway, is that manipulation? Or is that understanding that sometimes the people with the least power are the ones most likely to help because they remember what it's like to need something and not have it? And when that accountant helps you and you win an Oscar, and 26 years later you send him a check he'll never cash, is that gratitude or is that guilt? Because maybe the difference between using people and asking for help is whether you remember them after you don't need them anymore. And maybe the reason Lou Gelman framed that check instead of cashing it wasn't because he needed the money. It's because the check wasn't the point. The point was that Frank Sinatra remembered his name. And sometimes being remembered by someone who didn't have to remember you is worth more than $50,000. Sometimes it's worth everything.